Hi, I'm Gabriel White. I was asked recently at class to provide a video explanation of some of my performance testing, the technical skills testing and performance awards that I use in my class, Pistol Shooting Solutions. So today I'm finally going to make that video. So first, this technical skills testing and the performance awards associated with it that I give in class are not obligated standards of performance on either the moral or professional level. Standards is not really the right word for them. These are difficult performance goals intended for use by enthusiasts who are going to devote a lot of effort and time and resources to practicing and getting better. And so I think these are most appropriate for. They are probably a lot more difficult technical level goal than you would address unless you were an enthusiast. These goals are very much rooted in my recognition from years ago as a defensive handgun practitioner myself, a recognition of the very, very high technical levels of performance that exist within the competitive shooting world, and my desire to be able to duplicate those levels of performance, not with open carry competition gear, but rather with the defensive handgun gear that I actually walk around with all the time. Once I became aware of those high technical levels that exist in the competition shooting world, I really wanted to be able to throw down at that level of performance in the core task of draw the gun and shoot a single threat very efficiently. We use several short form stand and shoot drills in class, both as drills and as testing, and give performance awards based off of those to help motivate student performance. These 4 drills are also credible single threat engagement processes for the real world. So they focus on the core act of drawing and shooting single threat very efficiently. The performance awards themselves are little lapel pins with my logo on them in various different forms. These are the actual original logos themselves, here and here, just my logo of sights on a moon or a sun, whatever you want, spray painted on a couple of concrete pavers. In fact, this is the original dark pin image, this is the original light pin image, the turbo pin images are adapted from the light pin image. There are 3 tiers of performance pin awards, dark, light, and turbo. They start hard and get harder from there. Again, these are goals, not standards, and they're intended for use by enthusiasts. There are lots and lots of people who have really gotten the job done in real life, and they wouldn't reach any of these technical skill levels. They're very much intended for people who are self-motivated to do a lot of practicing and get as sharp as they can. The dark pin is what I'd call a tactical level of proficiency at the core skills of drawing and shooting a single threat. By that I mean I think a shooter able to perform at this level will have more than the technical skill needed to dominate any reasonably likely incident of self-defense using a handgun. The light pin represents what I would call an early stage of excellence, and I do mean excellence at the core skills of drawing and shooting a single threat. For reference, I've seen B through M class shooters in class both win and fail to win the light pin. The turbo pin represents a highly developed level of excellence at the core skills of drawing and shooting a single threat. The turbo pin is intended to be a special thing, and the numerical levels of performance needed to reach this are intended to ballpark the level of skill needed to win a fast challenge coin, previously from Todd Lewis Green, now from Ernest Langdon, or the level of skill needed to classify master or grandmaster in USPSA. Those are only rough comparisons, but I think they basically hold true for what is entailed in the test, which is considerably narrower in scope than what's tested in matches, or even in USPSA classifier stages. For reference, I've seen M and GM level shooters both win and fail to win the turbo pin. Still, what we're going for is to be able to throw down at the M-GM sort of technical level using self-defense gear in the core act of getting the gun out and engaging a single threat. If you can do this well in class testing, you get to choose. Do you want the tiger, the leopard, the snow leopard, the alligator, or the elephant? I mean, I say this partly in jest, but by the time you hear the explanation of the performance numbers needed to win the turbo pin, maybe you'll agree. If you can draw and shoot at this level, you are practically carrying around the power of the snow leopard in that holster. So here are the test protocols themselves. They're all shot at 7 yards. You can use either a USPSA or IDPA target. The score is the time that you take to shoot each drill, plus any penalties for the quality of your hits. No extra shots allowed. So shots to the 4-inch circle in the head or the A zone in the body are no penalty on an IDPA target. 8-inch circle in the body and 3x5 card in the head is no penalty zone. This is an older IDPA target, so I've added a 3x5 to the head. Now these are kind of alternate targets. You can use either one you want, USPSA or IDPA, A zone, -0 zone, 4-inch circle in the head, 3x5 in the head. Any of those will work. The C zone and the rest of the head, and on the IDPA target, the -1 zone and the rest of the head, outside the 3x5 or the 4-inch circle, those are all plus a ¼ second per shot. Shots to the D zone and shots to the -3 zone on the IDPA target, those are plus 1 second per shot, and clean misses, anything off the target, are plus 2 seconds per shot, and same thing with specified headshots that land in the body, those are also go down as misses. Start position for the shooter is loaded and holstered, and they can use 3 start positions at their discretion, hands at sides, hands high torso, and hands at surrender if they want. Any of those 3 are fine in class testing, and they can choose the one that works best with their concealment and holster scheme. Usually hands high torso will be the most advantageous for somebody with an open front cover garment and a strong side holster, and usually a hands down start will work well for a person with a closed front cover garment. But you can pick what you want. There's some variation there. It doesn't have to work the same way for every person. Although I certainly care the very most about what I can do from concealment with my carry gear, my motivation doesn't have to be everybody's motivation. So the performance thresholds that I'll list off in a moment, those are all the numbers that need to be met by people using open carry non-retention gear. So no concealment, no retention on their gear. Those are the base numbers. For those who are using concealment or a level 3 retention holster without concealment, they get a ¼ second bonus, a subtraction to each of their scores on the test. And when we do this in class, each shooter gets 2 attempts on each of the 4 tests. So that's 8 total test runs, 2 on the bill drill, 2 on the failure to stop, 2 on the immediate incapacitation, and 2 on the split bill drill. That's a total of 8. Even though they're different tests, I weight them all equally for the purpose of scoring, and I take your best 4 runs. Whatever 4 runs you scored the highest threshold on, that's what's going to count in class for pin awards. The 4 tests themselves, bill drill, which is draw and shoot 6 to the body, failure to stop, draw and shoot 2 body and 1 head, immediate incapacitation, draw, shoot 2 straight to the head, and split bill drill, draw and shoot 4 to the body, then 2 to the head. Those are all what I would consider worthwhile vehicles for technical improvement if you drive them pretty hard, working at a 7-yard distance, and we do that a lot in class, and they also double as potential engagement sequences against a real threat. Now, by the way, the 2 to the head on immediate incapacitation and split bill drill, that's simply a large nod to follow through on the range. In reality, there's a lot that can go wrong on the headshot, and so we want the shooter to stay on the sights for the second shot should it be necessary. That's something that we do on static, non-falling targets on the range, but simply a large size nod to follow through on those headshots where a lot can go wrong. I'm not going to go through the full breakdown of the numbers involved in the different thresholds on all 4 of those tests. They're all very related, though. The numbers translate in terms of draw to first shot time on the body, time on the head, transition from body to head. Those all extrapolate from the basic formula that I've got going. The one that I will break down that's pretty representative of the whole thing is the failure to stop. So the dart pin threshold for failure to stop, that's draw and shoot 2 body, 1 head, is 2.9 seconds. That breaks down to a 1.5 second draw to first shot, 0.4 second splits to the body, and a 1 second transition to the headshot. The light pin threshold on failure to stop is 2.25 seconds. So that's a 1.25 second draw and first shot, 0.25 splits to the body, and a 0.75 second transition to the head. The turbo pin threshold is 1.7 seconds, and that breaks down to a 1 second draw to first shot, 0.2 second split to the body, and a 0.5 second transition to the headshot. Those numbers of time for first shot to the body, split times to the body, transition and split times to the head, those all extrapolate to those other tests. And you can see on my website the full breakdown of the different pin thresholds on the other 3 tests. What I'm trying to cultivate for myself and help those who train with me cultivate for themselves is to be able to produce a very high level of technical performance in the core skill of drawing and shooting their handgun at a single threat. The kind of performance levels that would be considered a high level of performance in the competition shooting world where they're devoted essentially completely to technical skills. The origin of the failure to stop, for example, the 1.7 second threshold, although there is a formulaic breakdown, it came from somewhere real. On the old IDPA classifier, the first three strings were failure to stop, draw and shoot, 2 body, 1 head, and it didn't have a reduced size head box at the time. The whole 6x6 head box was the target at the time. And one of the wonderful things about that course of fire is that a lot of people have shot it a whole lot of times over a long time period and all across the country and probably across the world as well. And you're able to review the levels of performance that other people have been able to make. So I looked at the scores that are publicly available of Robert Vogel, Dave Savigny, and Ben Steger on the old IDPA classifier and averaged all their times for those first 3 strings, the failure to stop. And their average was just right about 1.55 seconds. I felt like there had to be a little difference in the base raw score to account for the fact that we had a reduced size head zone rather than the entire head box as a no penalty zone as it was on that older course of fire. And so I adjusted it a little bit and said, well, how about 1.7 seconds? But that's exactly what I mean by we're trying to chase the highest levels of performance that we can. As I said, winning a turbo pin is intended to be a pretty special thing. Most people probably going to have to work pretty hard to reach those performance levels. I certainly have to be able to do that myself. And there's an important difference between this testing and the kind of shooting that a national champion does, like the aforementioned Dave Savigny, Robert Vogel, and Ben Steger. I may be able to perform at a roughly similar level to very high-level shooters like that on this narrowly focused technical skills testing. But where you're really going to see the difference between a shooter such as myself that can do that on some narrow task and real national champions who can apply that skill across a highly varied, much longer course of fire. That's where you're going to find the difference. It's in a much more broad and demanding circumstance, demanding a lot more of the variations of shooting skill that are required than the narrowly focused draw and shoot single threat at 7 yards. So we're certainly looking for those performance levels, but I have no doubt that that level of shooter and many others, national champions and anybody who's a pretty high level of competition shooter or has a similar level of technical skill, even if they're not in the competition shooting world, I have no doubt that they would be able to destroy my tests and perform at the turbo level. But what's important to me is that I think that they probably couldn't do that without bringing their A game. I think they would need to take the test seriously and give it an honest try. And I have no doubt that they could destroy it, but not without trying. I don't think that would work. But I do think that if a person can draw and shoot single threat about as efficiently and quickly, accurately as a national champion level shooter, I think that's a pretty powerful mechanical capability to possess for the purpose of self-defense. That's what I'm after for myself and those who train with me. If you want to find out more about my technical skills testing, the other numerical breakdowns of the other drills, and see a list of those who have won the turbo pin in class testing, check out my website, GabeWhiteTraining.com. You can find all that there, additional articles and information, my philosophical background, and my class schedule as well if you're interested in coming to class with me, Pistol Shooting Solutions. Lest this video make it sound like Pistol Shooting Solutions is all about this technical skills testing. That's not the case. Certainly the practice leading up to it and the testing is a significant part of the class, but it is only one part. And that class is very much intended as an enhancement package for a well-founded defensive handgun practitioner who is ready to take some steps down the path in improving their technical skills. And depending on a person's background, there may well be some tactical enhancement from that class as well.